students that are learning how to read and learning how to write. And I know that when I went to school, it was all about one thing. You had to learn all your letters. And then once you learned all your letters, you had to know all your words. And once you knew all the words, then you can read. Well, that's not how kids really learn how to read. A lot of it's exposure over and over to reading and talking about reading, looking at pictures, things like that. So your emergent readers, and you may have some emergent readers, and you'll know what kind of readers you have because your teachers will tell you. And their reading level is kind of based on a number that we have, and you might say, well, what is this level 4 mean? And your teacher will say, well, let me give you the book for the 4. So your very emergent readers need to know these skills. Well, they need, and this makes sense to you, doesn't it? They need to know how to make their letters. They need to know the names of their letters and the sounds. That makes sense, right? Because how do you read if you don't know that? They need to learn to read and write sight words, and especially in first grade, the students you're working with, a lot of them have a hard time looking at print. And sometimes those sight words, they have to be fast, don't they? They have to be fast to help us read. So you're going to be working with the words like that, so they can be quicker in recognizing words. They have to be able to segment sounds. For example, when they're writing, they have to be able to hear the sounds and words and segment them. So if they say, well, Mrs. Crossan, I don't know how to spell the word cat, I might say, well, say that word slowly. What do you hear? They have to be able to go, cat. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. That's what that means. Then they have to space between writing. They have to leave a space between words. Now you might think, when I taught 5th grade, I just took it for granted everybody knew how to read. When I went to 1st grade and kindergarten, I realized we take all this for granted, but our little ones don't necessarily do that. So they also need to demonstrate one-to-one match, and that just means their eyes have to match what they're reading. They also have to use their picture. Now, I've worked with parents and they'll say, they don't need to check the picture, they need to read the words. Checking the picture adds to meaning, it helps them figure out the words. Pictures are very helpful to students. They need to, just what I said, segment sounds to write words they don't know. One strategy for writing words you don't know is not that I'm going to give them the answer all the time, because I won't be with them their whole life, right? They need to know how to be independent. We want independent readers and independent writers. So I say that word slowly. What do you hear? Oh, they didn't know they could do that. I knew that word, Miss Cross, and I went, at. Is that a C and an A and a T? That's segmenting those sounds. They're going to use, how do they read a book? They use lots of information in the text. Some of the information in the text are the pictures. Your readers in 1st grade have a lot of picture support to help them read. All right? They also use meaning, and that means the meaning of the story. What has been going on in the story that will help me read the rest? They have to use words that they know, right? You have to use words that you know, and they use initial letters to figure out words. They might say, is he under the, and they don't know table, but they see the table, and they go, table. See? Oh, that looks like a table. That makes sense, it must be right. And then they're going to discuss a story with prompting. That's probably kindergarten and early 1st grade, so you might have some of those emergent readers. Then your early readers are a little more sophisticated in what they can do. They're looking through words more. They're not just using initial letters, but they're looking through words. They're using a lot of strategies to figure out new words. They reread. They reread to see if what they were reading makes sense. They read with more fluency, short phrases. They make predictions about what they think might happen next. They remember and retell what happened. That's a really big thing to help comprehensions. Can I tell the story to you again in my own words? And they read and write a large bank of sight words. They have to just accumulate those sight words as they develop as readers. And then they use phonics knowledge. They just use their knowledge of phonics to read. So that's just a little bit of background. There's no quiz on this. You don't have to memorize that, but it's just so you know certain things that we have them do and you'll know why. What you're doing with readers is based on their stage. So in our lesson, basically, I'm breaking it down, and you're going to say, I don't know how I can do that in 1 minute. I'm going to show you how, but remember, you can work out. The first thing we're going to do is they're going to write 2 or 3 words, sight words, very, very quickly. Very quickly. That's for automaticity. Automaticity means knowing it fast. So that might look like this. And I'm going to show you a video. That might look like this. And what's your first name?
Casey.
I might say, Casey, I want you to write, we're working on the word the. I want you to write the word the, and she might go. And then I'm going to erase it, and I'm going to say, very good. Can you write that faster? I want her to write it faster. That's the point of that. You're going to say, well, still, I don't know what 2 words I'm going to use. You're going to have a collection of words, and the teacher that you work with will say, these are on your planning sheet, I'd like you to work with these 3 for a while. So we need to read them and write them quickly. Does that make sense? But now, that's not going to take too long. It's write it, erase it, write it again faster, try another word, erase faster. Okay. If they make a mistake, we just help and correct them. So I think the H goes this way. Does that make sense? So that takes about a minute. Then they're going to reread a familiar book. That helps with fluency. Well, Sue, what book is that going to be? Well, that's going to be a book that you've worked with and they've already read it and they're going to just read it again. It's like a book that you taught maybe Monday or last week. And when you start out, it may be a book that the teacher will say, she's read this one with me, you can read that one. Does that make sense? So they're gonna choose maybe a book, just one, and they're gonna reread it, and you're gonna listen to them read it. And you're gonna say, I like the way you checked that picture. Good reading. Did you like that story? Then we're gonna read a new book, and I'm gonna show you what that looks like. And when we read a new book, it's going to be a book on their instructional level that the teacher knows that they can read pretty much on their own. It's just a little bit of struggle for them, and that's what you're there to help them with. And they do a new book, and you help them with the book, and I'll show you how to introduce that book. And that's going to take about 5 minutes. Then I'm going to show you all this, but I'm just taking you through it quickly first. Then they're going to make words. And there's a sheet in there, and the words are the same words that I showed you right here. So if I'm practicing to write the word the, I might make the word the, but on your, so I don't know if I have the out here, but I'm just going to use, so I put the word here, I might write the word here, and they take the magnetic letters and build it right here. Then they check it, see if it matched. Then they scramble it up, then they make it again and check it. And I kind of cover it so they can see if they can do it right. Then they make it again, and they check it, and then they write it. So we do that with 2 or 3 words, that's it. Again, we're getting fast with learning our words. Does that make sense? Then we're going to write about our new book. We're going to write about what we read. Now, are they going to write a whole chapter? No, because remember, we only have 20 minutes. What I want you to see in this lesson is that it's moving quickly, and they're doing all aspects of the reading and writing process that they need. They're reading, they're talking, and they're writing. Writing for your kindergarten and first graders actually helps them be better readers. So they're going to write about the story, and they're going to write with you, and you're going to say, what's your name? Carrie. Carrie? I might say, Carrie, what did you like about the story about Sammy? And Carrie might say, Sammy's a funny dog when he runs away. And I'll say, is that what you want to write? And Carrie says, that's what I want to write. It can be just a sentence. So let's repeat that. Sammy is a funny dog when he tries to run away. Repeat it a couple times so they can hold it in their head. Then all they're going to do is they have a little composition book, and they're going to start writing it. And you're going to help them. You're going to help them. And I'm going to give you ideas on how to help them. What's your first word? Sammy. How would you write Sammy? I don't know, Ms. Crossan, I don't know Sammy. What do you hear at the beginning of Sammy? Help them S. What do you hear next? See, we're going to help them. What they can't do, what they can't write, you write for them. So it's kind of like your letters and their letters for what they can't read, but in the end, it's correct. Does that make sense? And it's usually like one sentence. And then they're going to reread it back to you. So this helps them understand that connection between what I read, I can write, and then I can read what I write. Does that make sense? They understand that words are read, and the same words can be written, and they see that reciprocity between reading and writing. And this read together, that is any book, and I don't have it on my video tonight, a read together would be any book that that child likes. Let's say that child likes Pete the cat or something, and they just want to read with you, kind of like a lap experience. So you just read it to them. If they want to read with you, they can, but it may be a book that's a little bit too hard, but this is that book sharing experience, and here's why we do that. We want our children to love reading. It has to be fun. This is a tutoring session, and we're working, but it's fun because the books are not too hard. They get to choose one to reread. They get to choose their sentence to write, right? And they get to share something they love with you, a book that they love. It may be that you have a favorite book, that your sister or one of your children or one of your grandchildren or one that you loved, and you might bring that and share that with them. Does that make sense? It's a sharing time, because in the end, you know, a lot of times when I taught in the classroom, I was so busy teaching, did I always have time to enjoy the book? And if you're not enjoying the book, you're missing the point of reading. Reading is not calling out words to call out words. Reading is to get meaning, to learn about others around your world, to learn about different values, different people, to learn and to enjoy. So we want to make sure that this read together happens. And I said if time allows. Now, maybe when you're first starting out, I just didn't get to it. But you know what? Get to it as much as you can. And it may be that I do this a little bit quicker or something like that. Does that make sense? But try to get there. And then setting the goals. And what does that mean? We really want our students to understand what they do well as readers and what they need to work on. Because we want them to be independent. Because they need to have strategies in their head to pick up any book and read on their own. So, and what's your name?
Jen.
Jen. So Jen, today we worked on making sure that we checked our picture when we were stuck on a word, and we made sure that we looked at the first part of that word to check. And that's what good readers do, and that's what we worked on today. And so we talk about what's our goal going to be for tomorrow. Do you think we should continue to use our picture? Yes, Mrs. Crossan, would that be a good goal for you to work on? So the goal is going to be, you know, you're working with them and you're helping them see, what's my goal for being a better reader? I need to make sure it matches with my finger. I need to make sure that to stop if something is wrong. I need to make sure to say words slowly when I'm trying to write. Does that make sense? So we're going to help them set a goal. Now, if you look on page 5 in your manual, you will see notes for the tutor. So when you're deciding, I don't know what kind of book to get, your teacher can say, give you some ideas for books for that, for those 2 sessions, and the teacher will also say, we're really working on the and was. And you'll have those cards, so you'll know. You won't have to figure out. You'll know. And after you start working with your child, you're going to know. Yeah, they still need some work on was, they still need some work on the. Does that make sense? So you'll know. And when they've mastered those words, there's always more, because the problem with our kids in 1st grade that are struggling is that they have a haphazard look at print. And there are lots and lots of words that they need to know. So don't worry about running out of words that they need to know, because we have all these words for you. So I want you to make sure you understand that this is not a guessing game for you, that the teacher will help you with the words and things like that. So I would, to make it easy for you, if the words that she gives you, they can write on that slate at the very beginning, and they can also make them with the magnetic letters. So it doesn't have to be that hard. Plus they see the continuity. And when they're reading, you might say, oh, look, there's that word you know. That's that word we've been working on. That's that word the. Does that make sense? So the next thing I want you to look at is page 9. I'm going to reiterate what I just went over. So I showed you the sight words, and the purpose of that is for automaticity and to be quick. So after the lesson, you'll write down which words you use. You complete this sheet after the lesson's over, but I'm just going through the parts again. Now, what I want to say to you is, there's a sheet that is not in here, but Ashley's going to get it for you and put it in give it to you for your notebooks. And the sheet actually scripts out this whole lesson for you. It tells you exactly what to say. Does that make sense? It tells you what to say. It's very easy to follow. It tells you what to say when you're looking at a new book. And I'm going to try to use that language with you today, but you'll have it in front of you. And I used it when I first started teaching and when I first started tutoring one-on-one. I used that little prompt right beside me so I could remember it. So don't feel bad about that. So it'll tell you when you're introducing a new book. It says right here, introduce and read the book, prompt is necessary. Well, I'm going to give you something to say. It may be like this. Today we're going to read the book called Zoo Food. And today we're going to read to find out what kinds of food are eaten at the zoo. And then it'll say in there, the child's going to turn the pages and you're going to say what's happening in this book. What's happening. You're not going to tell the child. So that might look like this. That might look like this. Boys and girls, we're going to read about, I'm just making this up. One afternoon we cooked hot dogs and I want you to read to find out what happened when we tried to cook hot dogs. No, that's all written out for you. You don't have to make that up. We always say, today you're going to read to find out. So they know the purpose of what they're doing. Then I have them turn the pages and just talk about the pictures. They don't start reading. I say, tell me what's happening on this page. Why do I do that? I do that so the pictures can make them strong when it comes to reading the words. Because they're kind of pre-looking at the story, just the pictures. And they can see, oh, well, look, there's Dad, and looks like Mom's sleeping. And I don't always tell them whether they're right or wrong. I might say, yeah, we're going to read to find out, because we don't want to give it all away. What's happening on this page? What's happening? Well, it looks like they're looking in the refrigerator. So you just kind of, what's happening on this page? Yeah, you may be all the way to the end. Then we say, okay, now I want you to read the story, and I want you to point to the words and check your picture as you read. If they get stuck, can you help them? Surely you can help them. And I give you little prompts to say, like, what word would make sense? Check your letters. Check the picture. I've got all that written down for you. Does that make sense? All right. So then that's the new book. And then they're going to do this activity where I put the word here, they make it, scramble it, check it, make it, scramble it, check it, and then write it. Does that make sense? All right. You'll use these magnetic letters that you see here, or you can also use, you'll also have tiles to make the letters. So when it's all done, when you're done, of course, the kids have written over here, they can take it home, but you won't have anything in the middle there, right? But you'll have. So you can either put your word cards right there, you can actually place your word cards there and turn them over, or you, as you see in the video, you can just write the word like I did here, and when I'm having them scramble it, I might just cover it up with something so they can't see it. Then I'll say, oh, check it, were you right? That helps their visual memory. So this sheet is in your packet for you. And then it was writing. And here's the thing about the writing. You supply what they don't know, no matter what it is. Does that make sense? And then when they're all done, they're going to read it. And then read aloud, and then setting goals. If you look on page 9 again, you can see the reason we do these things. So there's a purpose for everything. They're rereading the familiar text to become fluent. The first time they read a text, they're struggling a little bit because it's new and they're decoding, right? They're figuring it out. Well, the second time they've already done the figuring out work, so it's a little easier for them to read the second and third time, so they can concentrate on meaning and expression and fluency. So rereading a familiar text is really good for our first graders. And then you see down there, building the word, that helps with the word study, because remember what we saw about our early readers is they have to have a large bank of sight words, and they have to learn how to learn them quickly, and that's that rapid, write it quickly, make it, check it, write it, make it, check it. And then we're going to write, and you see right there it says linking, reading, and writing. The kids need to see that connection between reading and writing, and I'll tell you something, this is what we want our classroom teachers doing. We want eyes on text. The only way our kids are going to be reading on grade level and be very proficient is time with eyes on text. Reading, writing, sharing, and talking. That's what we call authentic literacy. Reading, writing, and talking. And that's where the tutor comes in, because that makes it such a rich experience for our kids. And then reading together the book conversation, you can just enjoy the book. It may be that you have a picture book and you read part of it today and part of it the next time, because of time. And you can enjoy, it's an enjoyment time, and I really want you to enjoy it and the child to enjoy it. Because in the end, why do we do this last? We want them to remember how fun it was to work with you. It's gonna be fun anyway, folks, but let me tell you, sharing a favorite book together, even, remember your own kids, when you were little, my kids, Goodnight Moon, I read it 100 times a night times 3 kids. I did not like that book after a while, but guess what? Guess what? They loved it. They want to hear it again and again and again and again. And I'll tell you what, they want to share this wonderful experience with you. And you will be happy to work with our little ones. So, I thought I would show you the video to kind of make it all come together. That'd be good? Yeah. And I have to know, I'm not really good with media, and the person who took the video held it the wrong way, so I fixed it, but it's skinny. But what I want you to watch, I want you to watch how fast I did it. You'll have to work, I did it fast to get it all in. I didn't do a lot of teacher talk. One thing I know about working with kids is sometimes we talk too much. I talk too much. So watch, because the book is pretty much on their level,